This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
All right, it's time for the Wrestling Perspective Podcast. It seems like forever since me and this guy has sat down, talked, hung out. Mr. Big Time, Petey Williams.
How's she going, eh?
Well, I don't know, because apparently now that you're heading over to Toronto and doing pay-per-views without me, you don't return my text anymore.
Hey, man, not my fault. You know, Dennis, come on, man. You've been with me at the Windsor shows. You know, like Canadian dates, they have me wrestle and produce, and it's not like, you know, I'm just like lollygagging around or anything like that. It's like hectic, gotta go. But, you know, I still find time to, like, you know, we hit up some interviews and all that kind of stuff. But this past weekend, it was truly, like, very busy. Very.
You didn't even mention the text I sent you. Like, I decided, I was like bored. I'm like, I'm going to send.
It was very funny. Very funny. Hilarious. Loved it. I looked at it.
That seems kind of forced.
No. Because you sent it on Monday, right?
I don't remember. Maybe.
You did send it on Monday, because Monday was my, like, super busy day.
Okay.
So I don't want to get too into it right now. But yeah, I mean, sorry, man. Like, it was like I was done my match, and then I had to go and get a lot of other things ready for the rest of the card and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of like, all right. And I'm like, I couldn't just shoot the breeze with you and talk to you, because I had to produce the last match of the show. Then we had to, you know, leave the building and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, like I live in the US. I don't have reception over in Canada unless I have Wi-Fi. So, you know, when you're on the road, it's different. But anyways. I digress.
Let's talk about the Rebellion pay-per-view, and the big news coming out of that was Brian Cage injuring his back. He sent out a photo. Do you have any updates as to his condition? If you guys are worried going forward of what you're going to do, any ideas, future plans? Because someone asked me about this, and I kind of had said, and this is just me talking, you can correct me, is they might get creative if this is a longer-term injury, and there's a month usually between tapings, although you guys are going out to Philly this week, that maybe they can finagle their way for a 2-month rehabilitation process to give them 2 months, but it doesn't feel that way on TV.
Yeah, I mean, so, well, to start off, you know, the producers of that match was Scott and Don. But Don obviously does commentary, so he can't be in the truck. And then Scott gave me the heads up well ahead of time that, hey, you know, I'm not going to be able to produce this because A, B, and C, you know, I got all this going on. So get with them, make sure you know the match, so you could call the shots in the back. So like beginning of the match, phenomenal. Like I if you're watching it,
amazing.
Like,
I did.
Like the story we were trying to tell. Like, it was just, like, really good. Like, you know, Brian's going to destroy this guy and all this kind of stuff. And then you kind of, like, you know, I don't know if you would call it slip on a banana peel, but Johnny kind of turns it around. And then, you know, then we have a good story. So they do this Spanish fly off of the ramp to the floor, which is like it's a huge drop. And that floor is not very forgiving. And, you know, I'm like, okay, cool. If you guys feel comfortable doing it, great. You know, like that. Okay.
Never once in your mind did you think, all right, this is kind of dangerous. Maybe I should put the kibosh, or did you left it in their hands of, all right, you guys are the professionals. You know what you're doing.
Yep. That's exactly what I do. So I'm not a micromanager when it comes to, like, agenting a match. I'm like, hey, you guys know the risk of this. Like, you do. I know when I do stuff, I know the risk. If I tell my agent, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and they're like, are you sure? Yep. Okay, man, that's on you then, kind of deal. So they do the Spanish fly, and then when they land, Brian, like, man, he just sells it. The way he sold it, I was like, man, what a great sell, man. I believe that he's, like, actually hurt, like, the way he sold it.
Okay.
Like seriously, I'm like, that's the most I've ever seen him sell. I'm like, this is great. And, you know, so I'm telling them the director, and by the way, we have a new director. We'll get into that later. I'm telling them, like, yeah, you know, this is what's coming up next, blah, 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 blah. And they weren't doing anything that they had planned. So then, like, immediately, like, John Morrison wasn't supposed to go through the table. It was the other way around, like all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I just told the director, I'm like, all right, they're ad-libbing right now. obviously, something's going on. I don't know if like Brian is hurt or if somebody's concussed or whatever the deal is. I said, but just film what you can. I'm like, and I still tried calling it to him to get like proper camera shots and all that kind of stuff.
No.
And you saw how it played out after the Spanish Fly. You could tell it wasn't the same match because Brian,
he struggled.
He couldn't even, like, he lost feeling in his legs. Like I give him all the props in the world because he was on like noodle legs pretty much, like just trying to get through the match. And you could tell if you watched it, you can tell. But I mean, that's pro wrestling. I'm like, he's that type of guy that he's going to do everything he can to try to get through it, even though he could barely walk.
So what was the contact like then from you guys in the production truck to the ring? Because isn't your refs mic'd up to be able to communicate back and forth?
Yeah, but I can't say. So Lance Storm was the ref, special guest referee. I can't say, Lance, are they hurt? He can't talk back.
You guys don't have a hand signal?
No, well, I mean, like there's usually a signal, and this is really inside baseball. So if you don't want to hear it, just turn off the podcast right now.
Don't turn it off.
But
just struggle through it like I am.
Turn it off. Yeah. Just fast forward like 30 seconds.
It's gonna be more than 30 seconds.
When I give a time cue, because obviously everything's timed for commercial breaks and stuff like that. When I give a time cue, like, hey, 5 minutes, they'll might wipe their forehead or something to indicate that.
They got you.
Like, I understand your signal. You know what I mean? Instead of giving like a big thumbs up with like a cheesy smile in the camera, like, hey, I got your signal kind of deal. So, right. You can kind of tell, like, I've been doing it long enough where if I tell the ref to relay something to the wrestlers and the wrestlers do it, I'm like, okay, they're getting my message. But I mean, there's nobody else that could talk back to us of like, hey, yeah, he's hurt or whatever the case may be. But after a few minutes, I'm like, yeah, he's hurt. I don't know what it is. I'd assumed it was from the Spanish Fly, but I don't know if it was like an injury to the back or if he was concussed or whatever the case may be.
All right, the match is over. Everybody gets in the back. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah, he was done. I mean, he was like, there was no celebration. It was like, get a medic. We got the medic there, and, immediately, like, he was like, my lower back. And I got to give it to them that they brought him to the hospital, like, right away. Ed Nordholm, who's the president of the company, sat with him at the hospital. So if that doesn't tell you something, like, I mean, I don't know. You look at, just to compare it with WWE, somebody gets hurt, would Vince McMahon sit at that, like, at the hospital with that person? I don't know. I mean, I'm not one to judge, but just to show you, like, Ed Nordholm was there. I remember we were in the creative meeting shortly afterwards, and obviously we knew Brian couldn't go for the next day. Obviously, what usually happens the day after you have a new world champion, the next set of TV tapings, it opens up with like some sort of like interview with the world champion, like, hey, like, whatever the case may be, to set up the next storyline and all that. That couldn't happen.
So now,
because Brian, what's up?
So now, what? Not to give away what you're going to do in future tapings now. Mm-hmm. Is this addressed in any way in the next upcoming tapings, or did you guys just?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you guys
absolutely.
Now,
yeah, I mean, it was a legit injury. I mean, so if you watch the pay-per-view, and if you haven't, don't listen to this next like minute or whatever. But if you watch the pay-per-view, obviously Brian Cage wins the world championship, and then Michael Elgin makes his big debut. Good friends with Michael Elgin. He's a Canadian guy. He came from New Japan, and he's not under contract with them now, and now he's under contract. He's working with us. And he came in and kind of after the match, kind of laid out Brian. And so we're going to explain it that way, and don't want to give anything away of what we did.
Right.
But, now Elgin is in our storyline. You got, Johnny Impact and a couple other things going forward. So, you do what you got to do when you don't have, when there's an injury. And that's what we did. So we decided on what would be best going forward, what would make the most sense. And, and we even hit another hiccup at the TV taping. Somebody else got injured. So, I mean, it's always happens like that. And you just, you just got to move forward. You got to do what you got to do, and kind of roll with the punches.
Now, maybe you can talk a little bit, maybe you can't. I'm assuming, based off my, being hanging out with you after pay-per-views and TV tapings and stuff like that, everybody in creative gets together that night. Any talk whatsoever about having him relinquish the belt? Now, this is a question I've gotten by a lot of people who listen to the show. Please don't let him relinquish the belt. Work around the injury. Not that I'm relaying their cries for or pleas to him, but was there any mention in your creative, like maybe we have to have him relinquish it, or not even discussed?
No, it wasn't discussed. I don't believe so. So, like the big thing was when we're going through it, because he was at the hospital, and I don't mean to throw my home country under the bus, but our healthcare, it's free, because the taxpayers pay into it. It's not like I don't like to say it's free, but it's free. Everybody gets healthcare. So if you show up there,
he's still waiting,
and you're like, hey, my lower back is hurting. They're gonna be like, all right, well, this guy can't see. This guy's bleeding out of the ears. They're gonna get a step ahead of you. So it's not like the United States of America. I know in the waiting room, they said that the one person was waiting for 14 hours. And it's like, oh my God, like that kind of thing. So, no, there wasn't talk. The only thing is, it's like, hey, we have to see what's going on with him. Like if he has like broken vertebrae, or if it's just like a muscle contusion or bruises, whatever the case may be. I mean, you have to, before we move forward. So we did what we can do for this next set of tapings, and then we have, that was Monday, so we have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off, and then Friday. I'm pretty sure Brian's going to be there in Philly. I don't know if he'll wrestle. I don't know, but the thing is, Brian is a machine. Like legit, I know that's his gimmick. He's a machine, but he is actually a machine. So he might be wrestling this Friday and Saturday in Philly. I don't know. Probably not, but
you never know.
Yeah, you just never know.
Any update that you've heard that you can relate to the fans on Brian's injury? We've talked about how it happened now.
Well, I saw him walking around backstage on Monday. He saw the doctor and stuff. So, he's sore, really sore. I know they're going to talk about the on Friday on Impact. They're going to talk about his status. So I wouldn't expect him to be out too long. And like I said, he's a machine. So the way we film, I don't know if he'll wrestle this weekend for the Philly tapings, but I mean, I would almost guarantee that he's good to go for June with our next set of tapings. I would almost guarantee that.
Oh, wow. That's very, very interesting of a guarantee. And you mentioned Elgin, who, is a friend of yours. I kind of know him a little bit. Nice guy from what I know of him. Was very well hidden, by the way. We're in an age where even, funny story, if you didn't listen to the podcast 2 years ago when Petey came back, I knew you were coming back, you knew you were coming back, and you showed up on, I guess, what was it, Cornette's, and, who was the other guys last night in Impact?
I don't know. I don't remember. Cornette and...
Was it Bruce Pritchard,
I'm
right?
not really sure. Okay, yeah. He was there at that time when I came back, yeah.
And it was kind of there last night, so you were supposed to show up and be a surprise, and you're like, all right, nobody cares, nobody will know I'm there. And like an hour before showtime, like my phone's blowing up with Petey Williams is backstage, and I'm sending you these messages. You're like, how do they know? Why do they even care that I'm coming back? So for someone like Michael Elgin to be back there, and I didn't follow it that closely, but I was surprised when he showed up.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of people were. I mean, I knew it was coming. The guys that I drove to the show with, by the way, it was Rohit Raju and Cousin Jake, or Jake something, however you want to, refer to him as. But they knew, because I was going to give them the heads up, like, hey, do you guys know Elgin's here? Because we all know Elgin. And they're like, yeah, he told us and stuff like that. So it's good that we are in a company where we can kind of, keep it quiet. And when people show up, they're genuinely surprised. and it was good. He got a good reception. People were chanting Big Mike, like they usually do.
Mm-hmm.
And Elgin's just awesome, man. Like, he's such a perfectionist when it comes to his art and his craft and stuff. I really enjoyed working with him last August up at where did I wrestle him? I don't remember. Was it Smash or something? No, it wasn't Smash.
XICW?
What? No, it was up in Toronto.
Okay.
Destiny. It was Destiny, I believe. And he's so good. He's so good. So I mean, he's a good catch for our roster, definitely.
So let's move on. Anything else that you feel like we should have? By the way, Jake something dating someone on the WWE roster. That's all we'll say.
We won't talk about that.
That's all we'll say.
I don't know if it's already out there and stuff like that, so I don't want to air his laundry.
We
stuff,
didn't really.
but,
we left it a little bit vague. I mean, there's a lot of people on the WWE roster.
Well, I mean, I really like Jake something. I really do. I mean, at the pay-per-view, the match was supposed to be myself, Ace Austin. I'm trying to think what the original match was. Myself, Ace Austin, Jake Christ, and Willie Mack. It was supposed to be a 4-way match to open up the show.
Yeah, Willie wasn't there, was he?
No, Willie was not there. Willie got stuck. He had some travel issues. He got stuck in, I believe it was like North Carolina or something like that. So they were thinking like, what do we do? With the recent departure of Eli Drake, now Eddie Edwards doesn't have anything to do. So they're like, let's throw Eddie in there. Prior to them suggesting that Eddie, play the role of the fourth person, I said, I drove up here with Jake. Jake's awesome. If you want to throw Jake something in there. And they're like, yeah, that's another option. Also, Eddie Edwards, and then Aiden Prince is another guy. So they ended up making a 6-way, which I was shocked. And there was some debate on who would win the match and stuff like that. And, we finally settled on, how the match played out. So that was good. And Jake, that was like Jake something's like first pay-per-view appearance ever for the company. And even Rohit Raju, who wrestled Scarlett, he told me that was his first pay-per-view appearance. So yeah, I'm really happy for those guys that they're getting to do all that stuff. I mean, that's really important to me. And they're young guys, and they can really go. And I know they like Jake was like, hey man, thank you for suggesting me to be in that match. Stuff like, I'm like, hey man, no problem. If I think you're a good talent, I'm gonna do what I can to make sure that you're featured on our show.
All right. What else was there from this pay-per-view we should talk about? Because you said there's a lot of inside baseball we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Another thing was, I was a little bit late for the production meeting, traffic in Toronto and stuff like that. So I wasn't able to make it. And, I was in the first match of the show. Then I had to produce the third match, which was the Rascals versus the North, who I love the North, by the way, and Moose. And I get in the truck, and, Andrew Thomas is our normal director of the show. And I see him sitting in the producer spot where Keith Mitchell usually sits. And I'm unaware. And some other guy, like his name's Rick, is sitting in the director's spot. And I'm like, and I asked our music guy, I'm like, where is Keith Mitchell? And they're like, oh yeah, you weren't at the production meeting. He's with AEW now. And I'm like, huh, okay. So I was kind of like blindsided because I don't know this Rick guy. I don't know his his how
background.
He does things and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that. And and it kind of really, and I feel bad for Rick because it wasn't a taped show. If you start your first time directing on a taped show, it's okay because if you miss a camera shot, that's fine because in post production you can kind of just get a different camera angle. But when you're doing a live show like a pay per view, if you miss a camera shot, you miss a camera shot. There is no going back. It's live. You can't fix anything in post. It's done, right? Mm-hmm. So I felt kind of bad for Rick that like, hey, it's do or die time. But by the next set of the pay-per-view, if you're watching it, you might think like, oh, these camera shots are kind of weird. But, just remember this is his first time directing, doing the best he can. On Monday, it's a lot better. Like it was. And I know by the next time when we go to Philly, he's just kind of like getting into his craft right now. He just got the short end of the stick that he got a live show to do for the very first time. I think it would have been a lot better for him if he had like a a tape show where he can kind of play with things and see how he want to do things and all that kind of stuff. So, but I think that it'll end up being really good at the end of the day.
Anything else from that pay-per-view?
I'm saying you got the injury. No, you get the big return of Rob Van Dam. We already announced, so that'll be on Friday when you watch it on Twitch. So a lot of good things coming up on Impact.
All right, let's move on. We talked about everything we can from Rebellion. But first, let's talk a little bit about Blue Chew, Petey, before we get on to some non-TNA topics.
Yes, please.
I feel like that if I was using Blue Chew, you'd come around more often than you do now. I feel like that my energy level's low. You're not excited to see me anymore, and maybe I need to pop Blue Chew to get you to come around more.
I'm telling you, if you pop Blue Chew like every other day or even every day, I'd probably come to your house and see you. I mean, it's a calling, I would say.
And if our listeners are having trouble getting their friends to come around, or let's say they're kind of like Willie Mack and they can't quite make it to the pay-per-view, if you know what I mean.
No, I can't do that.
Because if Willie Mack had Blue Chew, Willie Mack would not have only been on time for that pay-per-view, but he would have stole the show.
He would have. I guarantee that he would have found a way to get to the show, regardless of where he was, and perform at the top level. And then, I really believe that.
And then Lucha Underground would send us a cease and desist because of it. But that's how they work now. Anyways,
hey, when you got Blue Chew, who cares about a cease and desist? You can't cease and desist that.
That's right. Blue Chew is made from the same active ingredients as Cialis and Viagra. It's made in the United States, so it's cheaper. You can get it online. No awkward doctor visits. Pete, when you come over and we play doctor and it gets kind of awkward, with Blue Chew, you don't have to do any of that.
No, I mean, there's no awkwardness. I mean, it's really easy. I mean, it's free when you use the promo code Perspective. It's absolutely free. You just got to pay $5 shipping and handling.
What you talking about, Willis? Free?
What?
What you talking about, Willis? Free?
What you talking about, Willis?
You like that?
And we probably have some young listeners right now that don't know what you talking about, Willis. But look it up. And I'm happy for you if you don't know what that means. That means you're young and you.
We'll wait for you. Hang on.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Anyways, yes, if you use a promo code Perspective, you get your first order for free, and it keeps the show going. It keeps us all happy. We don't ask anything from you guys outside of it. There's no Patreon. There are some places that, exclusive Patreon stuff here. Get this interview on Patreon. We don't do that. We want everything we do to be free for you guys. And listen, if you've done it already, tell your other friends to do it. It helps us out, and it's like $5. You know what? You cannot even feed a child in Africa that cheap.
So I agree. So, I mean, why not feed your Libito. For $5, right?
Your Libito.
Yeah.
So
that's it. Yeah.
That might have been the worst ad ever.
I don't think so.
The worst ad ever. Anyways, Pete, let's talk a little bit about this Jon Moxley thing that were treated to this week. I gotta be honest, when I first saw it, and I guess I don't even know what media outlet to give it credit for, but I saw them, tweet out some of the Easter eggs that you saw in it, and I didn't notice any of them, I'll be honest. But after watching that, and watching the WWE, who's not been known in the past to celebrate a wrestler on his way out, right? Usually if you're leaving the company to go somewhere else, they bury you way down on the card, bury you and help you make you put over talent, or you're not even seen on TV, and that's it. With Dean Ambrose, they had a going away tour. They had the last ride with the Shield. They gave him like a WWE special on a Sunday night. And then you see this video, which, by the way, looks like a WWE production. It was very well produced. It was amazing. I don't even know when his contract was truly up or if it is. So I'm speaking with a little bit of ignorance here, if you indulge me a little bit. But this really kind of seems like, some WWE might be behind here, and I'm probably 99% wrong on this one, but just for giggles here, go with me on that ride.
Okay, I'll go with you on that ride. But and you speak about the Easter eggs, where I think on there's a dice. It said a die where it was said like 2 and 5, which is like when Double or Nothing is, and all that kind of stuff, and a dog chasing him, which is reference to Roman Reigns. Those were the little Easter eggs and stuff like that. Part of me really hopes that he's still with WWE, and then this is part of me, and then they're just doing this to kind of throw us off. Like if that's genius, because everybody thinking like, oh, he's going to AEW, right? I mean, that's what it is, 25, and like chasing the big dog, all that kind of stuff, good production and all that. I really hope he stays with WWE and does something, because I'm like, that would be phenomenal. Like that's something that's never, ever, ever been done before. And he returns as Jon Moxley. I don't see it happening. He's, maybe going to AEW. I don't know. But it's really intriguing. And it's, we're like, what is it right now? May 1st. Mm-hmm. We're only like 24 days away to find out actually what is happening. So it's not like we're going to have to wait too long anyways.
Yeah. And I don't know when was his contract up? What's his no compete? Normally it's a 90
So yeah, I guess the way it seems like, stuff I'm reading and stuff, that he was free and clear April 30th at midnight, going into May 1st. So, and then that's when it was posted, right? Like right at midnight or shortly after. So, which is really interesting to me, because if he signed with AEW or another company, Ring of Honor, Impact, whatever the case may be, and they did this production thing, that means that they were working together while he was still under WWE contract. Interesting, right?
Right, because that was not shot that day.
No, it wasn't shot that day. That's obviously a very produced segment and all that kind of stuff. So they were obviously working together, and then they're like, oh, we're going to air that right when your contract's done. So it's really interesting. And, he's trending like #1 on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. So, man, I'm really happy for him and just the wrestling business, because people are going to be excited to see where he lands.
Going back to my WWE theory for 1 second, what better way to separate Dean Ambrose from the Shield? Because I made this point on the radio show, which we recorded like earlier today, was as long as Dean Ambrose is in the WWE, no matter what he does, he'll always be shadowed by the Shield. Is he going back? Are they going to feud? What bring him back? If let's assume this is a WWE product, you're right, it's a genius, because if he comes back as Jon Moxley, sure, he looks the same, he acts the same, he does all the stuff in the ring, but Jon Moxley has zero ties to the Shield. And that would go in line with this lunatic fringe, line that they had been feeding us for many years, or at least try to separate him from the Shield.
Yeah, like I said, that'd be awesome if it was a WWE thing. It would be great, because it would be like the biggest swerve. Everybody thinks he's going somewhere else, and it'd be great if, and I could see them doing that. Like WWE is so smart right now. They know they know what AEW is doing. They know they have a show on the 25th of May. They know it's called Double or Nothing. They know Roman's the big dog. So why not throw these little like Easter eggs in there, being like, oh, he's going to AEW, and then he doesn't. I mean, this might be the perfect thing against them. Like, you go back to the WCW days, like when they were feuding with WCW. Like, I mean, how great was it? They were ahead of the game with WCW, and now they see AEW as a threat. Now they're maybe starting to become ahead of the game, and like, okay, let's get on top of this and all that kind of stuff. I would love it. I would really love it if he stayed with WWE. But I mean, that might just be wishful thinking on my part.
I absolutely, but it was very well done. He didn't do it on his own. If this is an AEW produced venture, holy cow, the production looks amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And production, and I mean, that's one thing, like, we'll go back to Impact. I know I'm like partial to Impact, but
slightly.
we slightly, right? We film a lot in a short period of time. So a lot of our stuff is post-produced. So we really have to rely on our production team. And we do really have a good production team. So I really like produce stuff. This was like one of the best. Like, it was really good. So whether it came from AEW or WWE, Ring of Honor, Impact, it's a really good production that they did, and it's got a lot of people talking and buzzing and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to have to wait too long to find out what the answer is.
Now, I know you don't keep a lot on the goings on in WWE. You might keep up with a couple of your buddies there, but there's something interesting going on with Lio Rush, right? And everybody knows who he is, 205 guy turned manager to Bobby Lashley. So, and this is kind of a little bit of a narrative story that I'm getting. It looked like he didn't appear this week with Bobby Lashley. He wasn't on the show the week after. He did appear in a dark match, but, there's been heat with him within the company. Rush has reportedly made it very clear that he should be the top guy on Raw brand. He's not shy about sharing those thoughts, whether you agree with them or not. You've got to respect that someone's that confident in himself. His confidence rubs a lot of people the wrong way within the company and within the wrestling business. Let's see here. PW Insider reports that there's been a lot of talk about Rush's future within the WWE and backstage and not being used. There are rumors that they're going to try to move him back to WWE 205 or NXT. If they can't, then they may cut him from the company altogether. Like, there is some massive heat, which, to me, this is old wrestling coming out again. It seems like the only way to make it within the wrestling business sometimes as a wrestler, and this is me talking, is you keep your mouth shut and you hope someone notices you. Look, I think Rush is amazing talent, but that his talent and skill set is not suited for the WWE. It's putting a round peg in a square hole. It just doesn't fit to me. And the massive heat because of his confidence, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, no, you're like almost 100% right on that, Dennis. Confidence and arrogance is like two different things. I don't know Leo. If he's getting massive heat because of his arrogance, shame on him. I know that back in the day with Zach Gowen, and he'll admittedly, like, openly admit this. He just got comfortable way too quick. Like Zach Gowen, obviously, one-legged wrestler. He came in, he was in a feud with like Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper and like Vince McMahon, like right off the bat. So, it's really easy to get comfortable that quick, like saying like, oh, I'm a top guy now. Like this is the way it's going to be. But, that rubs a lot of people the wrong way because a lot of people have been there for a long time, paying their dues, all that kind of stuff. So, it's the same thing with Leo. Like, even though, like, and I like Leo's stuff on Raw. He's a good manager and stuff. He kind of has that arrogant cockiness of him. It's a good teaming with Bobby Lashley and all that. But if you get comfortable too quick, it does rub people the wrong way, and that's what you don't want political wise in that company. You just don't want it. And it doesn't matter. Like, I like to, I don't know if it was like Randy Moss or whatever the case may be back in football when, he keep getting traded from team to team because they're like, well, we don't want this cancer in there. Like, he's a great player, but he's just like, he's too arrogant. He's a cancer to the team and all that kind of stuff. We're going to release him. We don't want him. We don't care that we're going to get like maybe 1,000 yards a year out of him or whatever the case may be. It's not worth it to us because it's going to destroy the rest of the team. So that's the way that WWE looks at it. It's a team atmosphere. If somebody's like really a cancer to the product, they're going to get rid of them. I don't know if that's the case with Leo, but I mean, that's their mentality there.
So I set this up to ask you this. In all of the locker rooms you've ever been in, excuse me, I'm fighting a cold too. Is there ever a time that you've seen someone with, and you don't have to name any names, but was there a time that you've seen someone with that kind of heat? And I'm not talking like Scott Steiner, who likes to dress in the set locker rooms because that's what he does. But did you know or see a situation where someone had that kind of heat where either he was shunned in the locker room or he was shooed out and had to pay some kind of social fine because of what he done?
Oh, that's a really good question. Now I have to go back 18 years or whatever that I've been working. Not so much an Impact.
Mm-hmm.
Because, in Impact, when, like, for example, when Macho Man came in, everybody knows he's Macho Man. He's Macho Man, right? He can act a little bit differently because he's Macho Man. Like, we are, I don't want to say beneath him, but, I used to watch him growing up kind of deal. So, I mean, he's
on a different level.
He's on a different level. But, nothing I could think of right away. I know that back in the CZW days in like 2004, there was a lot of heat with Teddy Hart and Homicide and stuff and Trent Acid. And, part of me thinks they're like, oh, maybe it was a work when you come, at the end of the day. I don't know. But, there's some people that get heat thinking that they're like bigger stars than they really are. And you just have to be humble in this business. You really have to be humble. Like, you don't have to be coming out like saying like, I'm this awesome guy or stuff. Like, yeah, let your actions speak louder than your words. Just let your actions do it and you'll succeed. But a few people are like, they don't see it that way. They have a mouth on them and all that kind of stuff. And that's not going to last in this business. So if I had any like advice for up and coming wrestlers, just, let your actions speak louder than words. That's all.
All right. What is there anything else to talk? Oh, the Impact app that just either came out or rebooted. Yeah. Not that they're paying us to talk about it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Sarcasm. Yeah.
Not sarcasm because we're getting paid to talk about this, so we have to promote it. No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
So it was the Global Wrestling Network? It used to be called.
Sure.
Right. Okay, sure. Let's just say it was that. So it doesn't matter anymore because now it's called, starting today, Impact Plus. So that's the app right there. All our, online content, our library and all that kind of stuff. You get a discount when you order our pay-per-views for the year, all that kind of stuff. It's our network pretty much. So now it's just called Impact Plus. There's going to be specials once a month on there. Our first one, I believe, is... what's this weekend? It's called Code Red. It's it's the 5th, the Sunday. It's Code Red. It's going to be hand in hand with House of Glory, which I believe is Amazing Red's, company / training facility. So, and I think they already announced kind of the card of what that's going to be and all that kind of stuff. Amazing Red's not going to be on the card, but it's going to be affiliated with his product and stuff. So, that's what you have to look forward to with the new app. And I don't know the pricing on it. Was it $7.99, Dennis, or
sounds about
I'm asking
right.
you as if you like you. Yeah, Petey, sounds right. Yeah, sure. $7.99 sounds great. But check with that and check all that out, and then you'll be able to see all the future Impact stuff and the previous Impact stuff.
Oh, maybe you can get a discount so we can watch some really cool stuff.
I would love if I was able to get a discount, like an employee discount since I work there. So I can watch some of this stuff and then maybe we could critique it and all that kind of stuff, sit back, drink a few beers and, just enjoy old Impact stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And new stuff too.
That would be fun. Oh, see if you can do that. We can set the recording equipment up on the other side of my man cave with that big TV and do like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of thing.
Oh man, our heads are just in the way of your
oh my
God. And then the
the
background is the TV. I love it. I love that idea.
I think, oh my gosh, I wish one of us knew someone to pitch that to.
Well, I do know somebody, but let me work on that.
Yeah,
let's just to be determined.
There we go. What do you have to promote outside of what all we just talked about?
Nothing much. We just got our TV tapings coming up in Philly at the old ECW arena. Now it's called I think it's called the 2300 Arena. Glenn Gilberti is making his debut there. If anybody's super excited about that, okay. So, we'll be at the ECW arena there, the old one. So we're supposed to have what's that?
Wait, you found in the budget enough money to fly Disco Inferno out to your TV tapings, but yet I can't find anybody to drive out there with me.
I don't even know if we flew him out there. If you're like he's already doing a show out there that weekend or whatever the case. But no, we probably made Glenn drive from Vegas to there. That's what we probably did. But
would you guys give him a Greyhound?
I mean, Dreamer's going to be there. I'm pretty sure Rob Van Dam's going to be there. And it's going to be a good show. I'll be there. And that's what's coming up this weekend. And then I'm trying to think what's after that. Well, always every Friday on Twitch, and you can follow me on Twitter at Petey Williams.
All right, Instagram and all that stuff.
Yep, all that stuff.
All right, listen, you can follow me on Twitter at iDennis. Wow,
iDennis Farrell. Wow, see, it's catchy.
I got to change it to that. You can follow me at Dennis77 Farrell. Head over to Facebook for our Wrestling Perspective Facebook page. Like that, you can listen to the shows when we post them there. If you've listened for the first time, thank you guys. Hopefully my cold didn't detract you from enjoying the show. We really appreciate it. You can go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. Click on any of the pictures there. That's where you can get your podcasts. We're everywhere where you listen, so just even Google it or go to wherever you listen and subscribe. That's big and helps us out. We definitely appreciate you guys listening and enjoying us, and maybe one day, Petey, we can make it to the big time.
Maybe we can, or even bigger than the big time.
All right, so
I don't even know what that means, but
it's a short. I thought we'd have a lot more to talk about. I'm tapped. I don't feel good. You're just getting back. We're probably going to stop the podcast and gossip amongst ourselves for a few minutes anyway, so we're just going to send the kids home happy today.
Yeah, we'll send them home happy, and then we'll have good content coming up in the future.
All right, guys, that's this week's show. Hope you enjoy. Talk to you guys later.